Okay.
Okay, we're recording and streaming. You can begin.
Okay, so I think the first order of business would be the call to order and roll call. And so I think if the vice chair wanted to call the meeting to order, that would be a good place to start.
All right. Well, good evening, everybody. I hereby call this meeting to order.
Thank you. And then Linn, did you want to do a roll call, or is that something the vice chair typically does? I'm also new to West Linn, so I'm learning how things are done here as well.
I believe the staff liaison calls the roll.
Okay, so thank you very much. So that would be Schreiber, which is no, Taylor, um, Nowaki,
Here.
Irwin,
Here.
Steele, nope, and Watson or
Yep, that's right.
yep.
Here.
Okay, thank you so much. So perfect. Okay, and then as we were discussing just before the meeting began, no public comment has been submitted for this meeting tonight. So I think next would be approval of the draft meeting notes. So I'll turn that back over to you, the vice chair.
Yes,
All
John.
right. Well, has everybody had a chance to actually review the minutes, and was there any concerns or any edits from anyone?
Yeah, this is Darren. Sorry for jumping in. Yeah, since you don't have a quorum, you can't officially
Good point.
vote on the meeting notes. So just table those until maybe someone comes later. You can get back to them.
So we're one shy of a quorum?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's table those minutes. Thank you, Darren.
Okay. So I think at this point, since that's tabled, I think we'll just move on into the work session, which is regarding the Willamette Falls Drive 2021 conceptual design plan. Since our last meeting, a request was made by a member of the HRB to have this presented to the group. I have Darren Weiss here to talk about the project. It is moving into the public hearing stage, but I'll let Darren give a background about the project and sort of talk about the goals and process it's going through. So, Darren.
All right. Thanks, John. Good evening, everyone. Again, Darren Wise, planning manager with the city of West Linn. And so, as John said, I'm going to just give you a pretty brief overview of the conceptual design plan, answer any questions you may have about it, and then give you the process that it's going through to get adopted potentially by the city council. So I've got a short presentation I'm going to try to pull up here. Make sure I've got the correct thing going on here. All right, can everybody see my slide there? Excellent. All right, so the purpose of the conceptual design plan is to really create a pretty solid design along Willamette Falls Drive from the Tualatin River to basically the I-205 interchange. It would be a design for all travel modes, so make improvements to pedestrian, bicycle, and vehicular travel modes. Again, the plan it's really designed to to provide a visual representation of improvements. As I get further into my presentation, I'll hit more on why this visual representation is required. But most of you probably have traveled the corridor, and it's significantly different in the different areas of along the way. So when you're down by Field to Bridge, corridor is very different than from when you're getting closer to downtown Willamette area. And then once you get out to approaching Willamette Falls Drive, it's very different there with cliffs and I-205 slopes and such things. So the improvements through redevelopment have always been required through the transportation system plan. So if someone were to redevelop a property, the city would require these improvements to be made. But it was always very tenuous on exactly what the improvements would look like, because there wasn't a solid plan based on all those different factors and all the different areas. So this really provides a good visual representation of what the improvements would be. So when someone does come in for redevelopment of a property, it's known what it's going to look like. And again, really trying to encourage alternative transportation use along this corridor. It's a heavily traveled corridor, so encouraging biking, walking, and transit use that exists along the corridor as part of the plan. It's also not only to provide the biking and pedestrian infrastructure, but also improve crossings across the street itself and across the side streets. As you can see in this, the visual at the bottom of the slide there, the improved crossings at Osman Road. And then the goal is to provide a continuous separated bikeway. So there would be no on-street bike lanes. It would all be separated from the travel lanes. So in hopefully 20 years from now, you'll be able to ride a bike from Fields Bridge all the way to Lake Oswego between the improvements in Willamette Falls Drive and then the proposed improvements on Highway 43. And I don't know if any of you have ever had the opportunity to ride a bike on Willamette Falls Drive right now. Yeah, it's not fun. So this is a plan that I think will be hopefully well received by the community to be able to use this corridor safely and efficiently.
Hey, Darren, this is Todd. Do you want us to hold questions to the end or ask them as we go?
Feel free to fire them off as you wish. So if you got one,
Mr. Vice Chair, are you okay with me asking a question?
Oh yeah, please. Thank you for for asking, but yeah, please go ahead.
Hey, Darren, just to clarify, this plan stretches from the bridge across the Tualatin at Fields Bridge Park to West Bridge Park under I-205. Is that the extent of the plan, that length?
That is correct. Yep. So it's so the Highway 43 concept plan, which was adopted in 2016, basically goes from Lake Oswego city limits down to 205, and this plan goes from the Tualatin River to 205 to connect them together. And I should mention that this plan will be adopted the same way the Highway 43 concept plan was. It's just an appendix to the city's West Linn transportation system plan. So it's just another document that will be attached to the transportation system plan. All right. Yep. So I'm sort of repeating myself here. So yeah, again, the goal is to have a complete pedestrian bicycle network from Tualatin River to Lake Oswego, so someone could travel the entire distance without being in the travel lane. There are also improvements included in here that were born out of the waterfront project. This slide here has a representation of what those improvements entail. So it will include a roundabout, essentially where the gas station exists right now at the sort of the foot of the arch bridge. So when you come across the arch bridge, you would enter a roundabout. And because of the slopes from the gas station property up to where the West 8 Bridge is at, it's too steep to get a leg of the roundabout out of there. So during the course of the waterfront project, we discovered a 1988 plan that was done for this area.
Huh.
That-
No way.
Yeah, that the recommendation out of the 1988 plan was to reroute the street through the mill parking lot. So we explored that, and it came out as a viable option. So you would again go through the roundabout, and then to head west toward Willamette, you would go through a new street that goes through the mill property, and then on your way to Willamette. And some of the goals associated with the waterfront project, which we believe this helps to meet, was to provide better access to all properties down in the area. Some of the properties get really constrained during times of high volume there. Getting in and out of their properties when Willamette Falls Drive is backed up is problematic for them. Help to foster redevelopment. We worked extensively with the owner of the mill parking lot. It's the former owner of the mill that went bankrupt. They retained ownership of the parking lot area, which we call the Uplands area. So they are interested in redevelopment of that parcel. And we worked extensively with them to make sure that this alignment was going to meet their needs and the community's needs of improving the transportation network through there. Then, of course, to help mitigate congestion and improve safety of that intersection during times of high volume. So just a little background, the project began in March 2019. There was an open house in August of 2019 that was really focused on the sort of the cross section of what the bike facilities and pedestrian facilities would look like. The Transportation Advisory Board was the advisory board for this project. They met in September 2020 and then again January of this year to make final comment on it. And as I said, the roundabout realignment was really born out of the West Linn waterfront project. There were 3 different open houses back in 2017, 18, 19, where this was discussed. It started out with 7 options, was narrowed down to 4, and then got narrowed down to this final preferred option. Worked with the West Linn waterfront property owners, so all the owners around the mill parking lot area. Held 4 different meetings with them to get feedback. City Council held a couple of meetings discussing this realignment. Planning Commission has held a couple of meetings surrounding the realignment. And then we also met with each of the Sunset, Bolton, and Willamette neighborhood associations regarding the realignment. So as I mentioned, since the corridor is so varied along the way, really are wanting to have some flexibility in the design. So one thing is we want to utilize the existing right of way and work with the terrain and the slopes. So what this is considered is a 30% engineered design. So you use the topographic surveys we have, what we know about the widths of the right of way, and then try to design it to fit in the right of way to avoid having to impact adjacent properties. Also, the city, is to be good stewards of the public funds, using money and funding to actually build the infrastructure as opposed to having to buy pieces of right of way off adjacent properties is the goal. So as you can see in these two images on the bottom there, the image on the top, the green planter strip that separates the bike facility from the street is removed in that section, and that's in order to work with the slopes along there, so you don't get into impacting people's properties by having to build retaining walls and such things that would require some of their property to do. So it's that flexibility to moderate the design. And then again on the bottom side, you'll see on the right side of Osman, there's the full width of the planter strip on the south side of the road. But on the north side of the road, it's been shrunk a little bit just so we can make sure that we fit the street cross section into the existing right of way. And again, once you get to the point where the project, a portion of the project would be funded. And then during final design, that's when the details would come out, and then work with adjacent property owners to make sure that the access to the property is still appropriate, you know, dealing with any slope issues. And then if we did need any of their property, we would go through that negotiation process with them. So here's another part of the plan that I think is important to point out. So west of the downtown Willamette area, so from Fields Bridge to the Willamette Commercial District, there would be bike and ped facilities on both sides of the street. So whether you're going west or east, you would have a bike and ped facilities on your side of the street. Once you get through downtown Willamette, where the improvements have already been made, then you would be put onto what we call sort of the frontage road. So there's the portion of Willamette Falls Drive where it's named Willamette Falls Drive, but it's separated, and the homes take access from this sort of frontage road. So bikes and peds would be routed onto there. And then once you got to the end, right down in here, there's an existing pathway on the north side of the street, which would still exist, the improvements be made to it. And everyone would be routed to the south side onto a shared pathway. So both bikes and peds would utilize this two-way shared path from the south side of Willamette Falls Drive. And so again, that's due to the constraints as you get along the corridor there. There's cliffs that fall off toward the river. There's extreme steep slopes going up to I-205 in areas. So in order to, again, have the least amount of impact, not only to adjacent properties, but also the cost of the construction of the improvements itself.
Can I ask a question at this point?
Yes, please.
So, you know, as with a historic review board, and we're sitting and having this conversation, and we're, you know, reviewing these plans that I think are well thought out. From the historic review board perspective, is there any opportunity to create an educational opportunity along this pathway? Is there anything that we could do with, like, you know, a little plaque or a statue, or maybe like an LED light that shines on something that's kind of an educational opportunity? Like maybe we could tie it in with what we've been discussing with, you know, the bridge and that type of stuff.
Yeah, I think there's definitely that possibility, some kind of interpretive signage that points to the historic district, maybe route people through there.
People are walking their dog, if they're on their bike, if they're enjoying a view, you know, I think it would be nice to maybe just point out some things here and there. You know, here's one of the great fishing spots historically, or here's like an important bluff, or here's some local knowledge. You know, just little bits and pieces that kind of maybe lit us some breadcrumbs out there for educational opportunities for our city. You know.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, and I know there's interest from the Historic Willamette Main Street group about providing wayfinding signage. So that could be part of it, is to incorporate some of the historic preservation locations into wayfinding signage. That's something
collaboration with the groups. Yeah.
So that's something John and I will write down, and when the wayfinding signage conversation starts up, we can make sure that we can tie back with the HRB on that one.
Awesome.
All right. Yeah. So again, I'll get through to this and get to the actual historic resources.
This is great. I appreciate the diligence and understanding everything.
Yeah. So again, so the shared path will be on the south side, going along sort of the undeveloped stretch where you only will see the old bus barn and then the old composting facility. And then once it gets down towards the mill area and the PGE facilities, so it will actually utilize Chestnut Street. So Chestnut Street exists and comes up to the Sunset Bridge. We utilize Chestnut Street to connect into Sunset, where there'll be a stop. And then from Sunset, it'll travel along the current Willamette Falls Drive corridor for a bit, and then it will drop down. There's a parking area that the mill utilized that was adjacent to Willamette Falls Drive. It will drop down through that parking area down into the main parking area of the former mill owners, and then go along the sort of the down slope from the existing homes that front Willamette Falls Drive, and then into the roundabout. So there will also be an intersection. So the old Willamette Falls Drive that goes across in front of those homes, we would just probably rename it as West A, and then have it continue up past the high school. So there'd be an intersection there also. So again, some of the reasoning behind the Chestnut, utilizing Chestnut to a stop at Sunset is trying to sort of meter traffic, right? So when 205 backs up, a lot of people get off, use Willamette Falls Drive to what we call use the third lane. So by creating some stops along the way to try to meter out traffic, the intent would be to make it just that much slower so people don't get on their traffic app and show that it's 2 minutes quicker to get off at Stafford and weave through versus just stay on 205 and get through town. So here I've sort of zoomed in a little bit on the historic structures that are in proximity to this realignment and roundabout. So again, I apologize that it doesn't show the entire street above the homes there, but so 4835, 4845, and 4865 are all on the city's local historic landmark list. So if any improvements were ever done to those homes, they would come through the HRB for review. And then the red star with the yellow outline there, that is actually a home that's listed on the National Register. So currently it's been converted to a commercial building. There's an attorney's firm that operates out of it right now. It was for sale. I'm not sure if it's sold yet or not, but so that's actually on the National Register. So those are properties that are in close proximity to this realignment. Staff believes that it would actually improve their access by eliminating all of the traffic, the through traffic traveling in front of their homes. So it would be easier for them to get in and out with the through traffic routed down below them. So again, it's those are the homes that are immediately adjacent to this. And then here are a couple other structures. So I've highlighted the old City Hall in the red star there. Again, it hasn't been placed on the National Register, but this Friday it'll be going before the state.
Oh, really?
Yeah, this Friday it goes before the state for a recommendation, and then the state's recommendation, if it's to list it, then we'll go to the federal review.
Awesome.
Later this year. And then again, it's out of the picture, but the two apartment buildings that are on the right when you come across the bridge from Oregon City, those buildings are also on the local landmark list. And then of course the Arch Bridge is on the National Register, and in the Willamette Falls locks are also on the National Register. So those are the properties that have historic connotations associated with them that are in close proximity to this.
That's exciting.
I'm sorry, Rich.
Sorry, I was just commenting. That's exciting, especially the locks. There's been some comment about reopening the locks recently, among various groups, and I think it's probably going to happen. Which is just more opportunity for us as a community.
Yep. Yeah, so we worked with the consultant that gave the HRB a presentation a couple of meetings ago about the listing of the historic city hall in the National Register, and she did not believe that this roundabout realignment would have any impact on the historic structure itself. So that was good news for us to hear. So this is just some other tidbits of information. So the state has what's known as a Measure 56 notice. So any potentially impacted property owner, we're required to send a notice saying that we're undertaking a project that may affect the zoning or the value of the property. So any property that was identified as potentially having an impact from meeting right away, they were sent a notice. And we additionally sent a notice to all of the corner property owners along the way, just to make sure word was getting out that this was going on. We also sent a postcard to all adjacent property owners all the way from Fields Bridge to 205. So everyone was noticed again that this project was going through the adoption phase. And then as required by our code, it was also placed in the Westland Tidings, a public hearing notice. So the schedule to adopt it, so the actual public hearing with the planning commission is tomorrow night. The planning commission, their role is to review it and make a recommendation to city council. The planning commission held 2 work sessions back in April and May, so they've seen it a few times now. June 24th, the Transportation Advisory Board will hold another meeting where they will make a final review and then pass along their comments to city council. We'll have a work session with city council July 6th, where Todd will get to hear this again. And then July 12th, there'll be a public hearing with the city council. And city council is the final decision maker on any kind of legislative process like this, where we're adopting something into our comprehensive plan. So that's that's it in a sort of a nutshell. I'd be willing to entertain any questions you have or comments or things that you would like us to pass along to the planning commission or council, if you wish.
Hey, Darren. I was curious about that whole exchange with like 43 and Sunset with all the roundabout, because there's like 2 roundabouts in pretty close proximity there, right? And
Yes, so yeah, let me.
I'm not sure if you take a sec to get that on the screen.
Oops.
No, this isn't a very historic review board type of question. I apologize, but I was just curious.
I don't know if I've got it in a slide here, but I could pull up the actual. Yeah, so here it is. Yeah.
There's
So
actually 3.
Oh, that's right. I'm not sure if you can zoom in there at all, or yeah.
I don't think I can. I can open up the concept plan if you'd like me to real quick.
Or like zoom in on your screen. You go to your zoom, you're at 100%. Go to like 150 maybe, so you can get a better look.
Darren, that's figure 20A if you're page 38, if you have to go there.
Yeah, let me get there real quick.
You could also go full screen, Darren, on your bottom right, if you want to.
All right, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and share another screen real quick here. Bear with me. I'll get there.
It's worth it. So who's agent? Who's in the bottom here as agent? Who's that?
And once it
It's me, John Steele.
Okay. Good to hear from you, John.
Yeah. Luckily, I was explaining what I had to do tomorrow at 6 o'clock, and I suddenly go, "Oh, I need to be somewhere else at 6 today."
Better late than never.
Yeah, I was interested in this one too. So I
Okay, so
apologize.
give us.
Share my screen again here. All right, can
Oh,
everybody
wow.
see that now?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, so this is
I guess.
yeah. Again,
Okay.
unfortunately, it's not all on one sheet, so we'll have to switch to the sheets here. But so this is the roundabout that would be the city's responsibility to fund and build. So it's the one that when you first come off the bridge, it would essentially be located where the existing gas station is, and it would create the three-legged roundabout, one leg going west to Willamette, one going east to get on 205 or toward Lake Oswego, and then south to Oregon City across the Arch Bridge. That north leg here would not get connected to this little roundabout just because of the slope issue. And then the adjacent roundabout is this one here, which is part of the ODOT I-205 widening project. So ODOT will reconfigure this intersection where the traffic signal currently is when you're going north and you get off at this exit here, you come down to that traffic signal. They will eliminate, if you can see my cursor here, my little hand. They're going to eliminate this on-ramp. So when you come across the Arch Bridge, you can just get right on. That will get eliminated. You'll actually go through the roundabout and get on with the traffic that's coming from southbound on 43 gets on to northbound 205. So ODOT designed that, which then sort of pushed the city's hand, because we were looking at a potential traffic light here, which then would have enabled us to continue this north leg and have a four-way intersection. But with the roundabout at this location, a traffic light could not be placed that close to the roundabout because it would back up traffic through the roundabout. Then there was also concern about traffic in the morning backing up across the Arch Bridge into downtown Lake Oswego or downtown Oregon City. So there are a couple of reasons why the ODOT was not going to allow a traffic signal there. So the only option was either leave it as it is or create the roundabout. And the goal of the waterfront project from the beginning was to improve this intersection. There's a lot of safety concerns here with unprotected turns. And so that's where this roundabout came from. And as I said, it was originally envisioned in 1988 as a four-way stop at that location with the street going through. So it's not something new that's been discussed in the community. It's just been a while since it has been discussed. But yeah, so you are right. There would be two roundabouts in close proximity, but it's all been modeled by ODOT. So it looks like should be no issues with it. And then I'll even continue on here. And then there's also city engineer Lance Calvert has been sort of messing around with the design for another roundabout at the other side of the 205 on and off ramps there. So again, where there's that traffic signal where you get on southbound I-205 and you get off southbound I-205, get on southbound I-205, converting that to a roundabout also. So that's something that it would take some more design work to see if it would actually to work in that location or not, but it's something that's being thought about.
Right. I was gonna say, I mean, this is the most European thing I've ever seen done here. I mean, 3 roundabouts in such close proximity. I don't think that exists anywhere in Portland.
Might have some crumpets on the third turn, you know.
Yeah, so that question was asked at a planning commission hearing. I don't know if you remember this or not, Scott, but
I probably missed that one.
yeah, you might not have been present at that one, but one of the planning commissioners asked the exact same question, and the city's consultant that helped put this together pointed out up at I'm never going to pronounce it correctly, but the new casino, Linn, I believe it is, up in Washington.
Elani or something like that.
Yeah, there's a three roundabout system up there. They're maybe not in this close of proximity, but it does exist elsewhere in the region that you would have three back-to-back roundabouts like this.
We need to ease congestion, you know,
Yeah.
ultimately. I think that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, and again, that is the ultimate goal of this roundabout here. So,
Especially with the growth. We're going to see like a lot of positivity in this area in the next few years with everything with Grand Ron and Blue Heron and Blue Heron. But and then what we're doing as well, I mean, coordinating, it's going to be really positive.
yeah, so the city engineer Lance Calvert talks a lot about the sort of the three-pronged approach to trying to mitigate some congestion in this area. You know, prong one being I-205 getting widened, so hopefully that will take some pressure off. Prong two, this roundabout, so hopefully getting some free flow of traffic through there and not having that backup of people trying to make those left turns that are not protected. And then three, as I talked about earlier, like creating a couple of stops along the way on Willamette Falls Drive to discourage people getting off of 205, hopping onto Willamette Falls Drive and using that to just avoid congestion on 205. So
Has there been any talk about you know, the toll situation on any of this? The toll bridge?
So this has really been focused on the whole plan itself, on the pedestrian and bicycle improvements along the way.
Sure.
And then of course this particular solution was born out of the waterfront. So we haven't really dug too deeply into impacts on the tolling impact on the specifics of like the roundabout here. But yeah, it's definitely something that needs to be part of the conversation.
It's just an
I
uneducated,
agree.
just a curious question.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I agree. We should get that like in the plan and documented so that it's a full picture.
Well, I guess one thing I was curious about is, well, one thing with these roundabouts, so I think that, well, there'll probably, there'll be some dense traffic there. I mean, I think it's interesting because it will slow down traffic through that, what about that quarter-mile stretch to about an average of 20 miles an hour. I'm not sure how big those roundabouts are, if people can even do 20 around those. But I wasn't sure about the possibility of like some kind of like, I mean, we talked about historic markers along this route. There might be like a viewpoint. I'm not sure if we could do anything with like the sidewalk, kind of create like a little, stop and look, and then put up like one of these informational placards like
Green
right
spot or
there.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of just a spot for someone to soak it in or just take a breather after the arduous journey through those three roundabouts. I mean, as a pedestrian, I like that because the sidewalk is the furthest south, right? So you got the bike traffic lane and then the sidewalk south of that, right?
that's correct. Yep.
Okay, that's good. And I think that's really great because then as a pedestrian, you'd be like, oh man, here's all this crazy road traffic. Good thing I've got this good 8 to 10 foot buffer separating me from it. And so that would be a lot less intimidating than some of the sidewalks, we see in town around the busier streets.
Yeah, we're kind of discussing multiple experiences. We're discussing like a traffic experience, we're discussing a dog and bike experience, and the way this all takes shape is like the whole picture.
Hey, Darren, I got just a quick question for you. So by doing all of these, because these are kind of juggernaut areas in Bolton, so by doing all this, aren't we promoting people jumping off at Stafford?
So the intent again, so the three-pronged approach, right?
Yeah.
One being that so I guess maybe I need to take a couple steps back and talk about sort of the sequencing of some of this stuff also. So first, we don't have identified funding to implement this plan right now. It's one of those things where you put together a plan like this, get it adopted into your transportation system plan, then you make it, and it becomes available for funding sources at the federal, state, and regional levels. So that would be, you know, our hope, our first step and hope would be that get this adopted, make it available for some funding.
Yeah, get it in front of them. Yep.
Yeah. So then, secondly, so the I-205 project, it's looking more and more and more like it's going to get funded, and they're looking at possible starting construction in 2022. So I think they're calling it phase 1A, which would essentially be the Abernathy Bridge, which they're gonna split it apart and add new lanes and build the new pillars, and then do this roundabout and the new on and off ramps, which we're thinking would take, you know, minimum 5 years, but more like 5 to 8 years. So the city, even if we were to secure funding, we would not start the process of this roundabout until ODOT's roundabout would be finished. Right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So that would sort of be the sequencing.
And the rough estimate is what, like 5 years? You were saying?
Yeah. So I think the ODOT estimate for their phase 1A is to be done in 5 years, but you know, we know that typically doesn't happen. So we're thinking, you know, by the time the roundabout and everything got in, you'd be looking at more like around probably 8 years before the city would be looking to do our roundabout. But getting back to Tom's question, so as I was talking about, the three-pronged approach being the widening of 205, the full stretch all the way down to Stafford, where it's 3 lanes currently, would be the first prong. Hopefully, helping to create a little bit more capacity, keep people on the road without it backing up at the bottleneck of where it gets down to 2 lanes. Secondly, then for people that do get off, eliminating this bottleneck here at this intersection, you know, creating more of a free flow through. You know, it's you're all familiar with roundabouts, so it's a lot easier to merge your way into a roundabout than it is to be at a complete stop with traffic both ways, trying to make that left turn across without, you know, getting into an accident. So that'd be the second prong, and then the third prong being the stops along the way. So I believe there's the stop at Ostman that they put in that sort of meters traffic going into the Willamette area. At some point, there's probably going to end up being a traffic light at 10th and Willamette, so that would be another meter, or a roundabout, one of the two. And then again, that going up Chestnut to Sunset would be another stop sign, which would be another meter to just slow that route down, so it's not as attractive to get off of 205. Try to save.
And so by meter, it's just a slowing of the progression. Is it just the light itself to ease the flow of traffic? It's not a meter per se, right?
Yeah, just sort of a self-metering type thing with a stop sign. So again, it goes back to, you know, with technology today, you're driving down the highway and traffic starts to back up, get your map, and it says, oh, it's 3 minutes quicker to get off here and go down Willamette Falls Drive and pop back on 205 up the way there. Yeah, so create a couple stops along the way on Willamette Falls Drive, so you don't get into that position where it's that much quicker to hop off and utilize
But it's not a meter, it's more of like a stop sign.
Yeah. Using a stop sign as a metering. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So Tom, I hope that answers your question.
Oh, I hear what you're saying. I'll just leave it at that. I live in that area, and so just a quick example is McKillican's, the street that drops down from the high school down to the 4-way intersection where Starbucks is and Market of Choice.
Yep.
And right now, this thing sets up to push everybody that's coming off the hill in my front yard. So, you know, I'm not terribly, because they're not going to come down and cross over A Street and then wind all the way over to the Mill to Sunset to go back to the circles. They're going to drop down McKillican and then hit the circles and go where they want to go. So I'm just looking at it going, yeah. And again, because I drive home from Willamette, and I'm looking at this thing going, well, I'll get home quicker in the evenings. I'm not going to get hung up by the mill on my way home, because this is going to push everybody through and onto the freeways quicker. So that's all. You know what? It's improvements. We're going to have 3 lanes on the freeway, and we're all trying to improve. That's all. You know what? Everyone has their personal agenda. This is the first time. I don't live in the historic district, and I've worked with a lot of people on this committee that are historic district people. So it's kind of refreshing to go into my neighborhood and actually have a personal agenda when I'm looking at something. So I appreciate all the work that you guys are doing on this. I mean, there's no. I mean, this is a solid answer for some of the issues.
Yeah, and we've been trying to, say all along that we're never going to eliminate congestion and traffic issues. We're just doing the best we can to try to mitigate them as much as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate it. I didn't realize that we were going to get into anything other than Willamette, our district down here, and a little bit of up there where the police building is. So I appreciate all the work that you've done in your presentation.
Thank you.
Hey, Darren, I was curious. I know that this is probably more of a transportation advisory board thing, but have they looked at the speed limit on Borland Road? I mean, because it's like 45 through most of that, isn't there? Right down to Willamette Falls Drive.
Probably. So let me skip back through my document here. So that's one of the questions that was asked. We presented to the Willamette Neighborhood Association last week. And, so this is all the way down at when you first come across the river, and there's contemplation about a roundabout there also, and that would really be in response to. So that's the school district property there to the north side, and as part of their proposal to build a middle school there, they would actually make a connection from Dollar Street down to Willamette Falls Drive right here. You can see the future Dollar Street connection.
Honestly, I think it makes a lot of sense, especially in light of like HB 201 and 2001, 2003. Just planning ahead.
Yeah, so one of the benefits about having a roundabout here, Scott, for your question would be, it would really sort of force a reduction in speed, right, going into a roundabout, as opposed to if it was just a free flow going from 45 across the bridge into West Linn, which I believe it drops to 25 there, if I remember correctly. 35.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the people who jump off 205 and they're all like, I'm gonna save some time on my commute and drive unreasonably fast on Borland Road. Yeah, I was just curious if if we had the speed limit reduced on Borland Road by like 10 miles an hour or something, then everyone would know. They'd be like, oh, they slowed down Borland Road. It's still fast enough for the locals, but might tell commuters, oh, it's not the quick bypass it used to be.
Yep. Yeah, that's something I'll pass along to Mr. Calvert and see if there's ever been any discussion about that, or what the likelihood of something like that happening would be.
I mean, it seems like an alternative to the stop sign / meter thing we were talking about. If there's any kind of study as far as just in general traffic flow, populations of a similar size, where the on-ramps connect, just anything like that. I mean, it just seems like a complementary strategy to the stop sign strategy, because it's the same goal. The same goal is to reduce the Waze crowd.
Hey, we all know that the 4-way stop at Ostman, is it Ostman?
Yep.
That's not necessary, but it's serving a purpose like you're talking about.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, it creates a sort of a secondary backup instead of everyone being sitting in downtown Willamette. It sort of meters out that traffic to keep them slowly moving.
And the neighborhood quality of life is affected by that too. I mean, let's call it like it is. Like, traffic flow does affect neighborhood experience.
Absolutely. All right. Any other questions or comments? Anything you'd like me to pass along to the planning commission, let me know and I can do that. Scott, you'll be there
Thanks
too,
for
right?
trying, you know, honestly, like this is a beautiful struggle. I appreciate what you guys are doing.
Maybe we should raise the speed limit through the historic district.
Let's raise the insurance while we're at it.
Richard, I loved that phrase, a beautiful struggle. I'm going to contemplate
Oh
that.
yeah. What's that?
I like that. I'm going to contemplate that. A beautiful
Oh, please do. Please do. Yeah, we're all just borrowing this reality, you know.
All right. Well, if there are no more comments or questions, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and let you get back to your meeting then.
Darren, appreciate you bringing this for review tonight and look forward to seeing you and it again.
All right. Yes. Thanks for having me. Always appreciate coming to the HRB.
Thank you, Darren.
Thank you, Darren.
He's not really gone.
Kind of gone.
He's always
Hi,
ready
John
for action.
Steele. It's Todd Jones.
Do we have a quorum now with our agent?
I believe we do.
Awesome. Good question.
Yeah.
All right. Well, would we like to vote on the minutes? If everyone's ready or has feedback.
I was a little disappointed there weren't a lot more speed bumps in the plan.
Always good for the roadster. All right. Well, if there's no amendments or corrections to the minutes, all those in favor, aye. I'm going by loose Robert's rules here, so if I'm doing anything wrong. Any nays? All right, so moved.
Hey, Linn,
Lynn's
you're
trying to talk, but she's muted.
maybe
She's saying a lot right now. I just can't hear her.
can't hear you.
Mute.
Your video is on, but your audio is off.
Nope.
I get what you're saying, but I can't hear it.
She can come to my cubicle and use my headset.
Okay,
Yeah, there we go.
sounds good. It seems important. We should know what she wants to say. With these fake backgrounds, that is so bizarre.
Yes. Okay. So
Quick hike over the mountains.
It's like Twilight Zone.
there was a tunnel there she ran through.
Oh, okay.
So I
Tunnel through
I
the
think
mountains.
so I think for the record, since this is being recorded, could the agent please identify themselves for the record and how they're voting on the on the minutes.
I will be happy to. You want it now? Is John Steele?
Come on, the suspense.
John,
Yes, please.
that's too much. John Steele voting aye.
Thank you very much.
That was poetry.
Okay. So with that, we have that.
So I
That
have
was
the city manager that wants to say hello to everybody.
Is John Floyd doing a good job? You can let me know. He those headphones that he's wearing don't work. Hi everybody, thanks for the work that you do. I said to Darren that I routinely see planning staff here. I think as much or if not more than I'm here, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate you taking time out of your weeknights to do the work that you're doing. So, have a nice evening.
Thanks for coming and saying hi.
For transparency's sake, I just had a meeting with the city manager before this, and I tried to get away from it by telling him I had to come here. So he was checking to make sure I actually showed up. So there we go.
Uh, okay, so I think we have a couple items left. If the board has any items of interest to share. Nope. Okay.
I'll abstain. Yeah.
Okay. Well, and if the vice chair is okay with it, I do have one update from staff I'd like to present.
Please.
So I think at the last meeting I sort of touched upon some of the work staff is doing, some of the applications in the pipeline, and I think I touched upon a potential reuse of the old gas station site into a food cart pod. So we have actually had a pre-application meeting on that to talk about the status of that project, and as a result of that, we've spent a lot of time in Chapter 58, sort of working through how that project intersects with our code. And there's one thing that keeps coming up that is complicating projects like this one. This is just the current example, but there are others, is that Chapter 58 really assumes a complete redesign of the site, or a building that is easily converted to a Western false front style. And in fact, there are several buildings in the downtown area that may not be worth demolishing, but have value and potential on their own. And so it creates a little bit of a tension there. And so I think, for example, on one end, we have the Youth Music Project, which is a sort of mid-century, building. There's no way to really bring that up to a Western style false front. That was, I've been digging through the records. That was approved in 2013 through a series of 3 variances and planning commission review of some non-conforming changes. On the other end of town, we have the gas station, which is another mid-century building. Doesn't lend itself to easy conversion. And then across the street are the townhomes. There's no proposal for that property, but it's just one example of a building that may be refreshed in the future, without a full tear down. And so looking at the code, the Chapter 58 is very narrowly focused on achieving a certain design aesthetic, which it does pretty well with some changes as we talked about in our last meeting. But it goes so far as even to require things like basic maintenance to actually bring properties into compliance. So it actually prevents like for like replacement. And so in that any replacement has to come into conformance. And just so you know, the scope of the project we're looking at right now is that the owner of the gas station really wants to restore it to its sort of mid-century glory, mostly through things like maintenance of the roofs, slight changes to the storefront, ADA upgrades. So the current bathroom is not in compliance with ADA, as you might imagine. The doors are narrow, and then also some of the exterior materials are starting to fall off and need replacement. So, but overall, the site generally works, in the current configuration for food carts. So as we're sort of working through the code, as applied to this project, I kind of wanted to run a couple different code options for you guys, maybe to think about. It's not, we haven't really agendized this for official discussion, but just to get some early feedback about what you generally feel about 3 questions. And the first would be modifying the language to more clearly allow like for like replacement, just to help make things like maintenance easier of existing non-conforming buildings. A second path would be, would the HRB feel comfortable making an allowance for small modifications for things like ADA compliance without coming before the board for review? So in terms of what sort of threshold levels you guys are thinking about, and then maybe like a third variance criteria or path for like an existing non-conforming building that has a limited amount of change, but can still add something to the district without compromising the overall intent of the code. Where, you know, the assumption might be if it's a complete tear down, then of course it has to meet all the standards, but maybe there are ways to get incremental improvements. And you know, we didn't really talk about this too much at our last meeting, but I just wanted to throw this out there to maybe you know, have you guys start to think about this and maybe give us some early feedback as we develop some draft language. And I'm just want to toss that out there for any thoughts.
Yeah, no, I like it. I think the maintenance thing is interesting because it has to be defined, like for like, you
Yeah.
know, like you can do, I mean, insurance wise, like for like is like a common concept, but it has to be defined in what that really is and like what our standard should be. Like you can't have trash and get like for like on trash. Like if it's not
Yeah.
up to COPE standards, you know, it's not good. The other thing is like, you know, we're talking about a gas station. So you tell me what a Weston gas station looks like, right? So I think it could actually behoove us to maybe look at what the true historical essence of that sort of you know, gas station, food court kind of a thing would be, and give it that kind of a blessing where it's like it's historically accurate in this way.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So that's just kind of some of my feedback, and I think then we can all keep our integrity there and stay true to what we're saying for the district.
Hey, John. Oh, go ahead.
No, we.
So it's interesting because I've been on the board for a couple of terms now, and that piece of property, as a Westland resident, as we all probably are, and most of us here, is we want to see something happen other than what we're looking at right now, right? And so, you know, one thing that we have the luxury of is this committee is that we can supersede, we can override laws, rules, and things like that to make things happen. All right, so why? A couple of years ago, we talked about trying to get that piece of property out of the historical district so that somebody could do something with it and they wouldn't be stuck dealing with our chapter 58. So in general, obviously, I think we're probably all going to be on the same page. You know what? If I like the idea of them shining what they have and limiting our oversight, because again, they're going to shine something. They don't have to put a storefront on it from 1903. They can make it mid-century modern and kind of make it cool the way it is. I'm just kind of talking because we haven't talked about this as a committee at all. I'm just talking out loud, right? But something needs to happen with that piece of property, and I'm excited to see that. For people driving in from that part of town, you know, we've all seen what's gone on over there across from Tony's Fish House or Fish Market over in Oregon City. That place rocks. Yeah, I think it could be a serious win, and all we're doing is all they're doing is cleaning up what they have, and if they want to add some detail to it, they bring it to us and we can look at it. And again, we have an attorney that sits our meetings and he keeps us somewhat in line, but at the end of the day, we can say yes to anything we want. It's kind of cool. Those are mine.
Okay. Thank you for that. I think too. I think this is just. I think those are great thoughts. I think just also just to kind of frame my question for clarity as well. You know, the current project is the old gas station, but there are some other sites as well that we want to be mindful of as well too. So yeah, but absolutely, yeah, the gas station is decidedly the hot topic right now. So yeah.
Yeah, I would just say having a story to tell is key for adoption.
Okay.
So whether that's historical or whether that's a congruent theme between the food courts, a name of the pod, maybe that's all it is. you know, but just something that is thematic, just in general. I mean, just branding wise, you know.
Okay. Well, that helps. Was there any other thoughts by other members of the board about potential code changes for situations like this?
Hey, John, does it have to be a code change, or can it be something where when they present something to us, we've already kind of had kind of an unofficial conversation that we are open to things that aren't
Yeah,
to code? Because I don't know that, I mean, like you said, there's a very small handful of commercial properties that
there are.
this would probably be a concern for. And right now we're 2 years into rewriting code for chapter 25 and 58.
Mhm.
So I'd rather
I see your point.
I'd rather officially bend the rules for I mean, I'm just thinking out loud, but I'd rather officially bend the rules for a project that is completely outside the box, like that garage, like the gas station is, and
Okay.
and
I
and,
agree.
and
Okay,
try to
well,
hold on to some of the essence of what we've tried to create.
Okay. I think in terms of bending the rules, that there are no really bending the rules necessarily for projects like this. There is the youth music project was able to get through a series of variances and a and plan commission review of expansion of a non-conforming structure, and that's a path in the code already for that. However, it's a little more. It makes even small changes to the building, such as potentially the addition of a cooler, for example, or modifications to the storefront, go from a potentially staff level review to a planning commission level review. So I think one of staff's concerns was, are there ways to make small changes a little more efficient and possible to happen? And so I think in this case that there is a path for the new owners of the food cart site. I'm sorry, for the gas station site to apply and be considered. So, but I think the thought was if if for for the other properties, if the situation comes up again, is this are there um, other scenarios where where a code change might make sense, and if not, that's fine. I think we just wanted to put that out there since it's on our plate right now. So,
Well, and you're exactly right. And so
yeah.
I say bending the rules, I meant going through the proper variance process. I shouldn't have said bending the rules. So that being said, if there are things, because the fact that we're going through the code right now, if there are things that you have that you're that we can look at, we're open to reviewing them and going through and tweaking some things if we need to. Absolutely.
Okay.
And if there's some glaring ones, because we have glaring ones, we've been talking about it in the last couple of months on the residential side of things in particular. We're open. That's we want to tweak this thing for the best interest of saving the community, but also keeping commercial alive.
Mhm.
One thing I wanted to throw in. Oh, okay. One thing I was gonna say, John, is like if we open the door to these small changes,
Mhm.
then we'll have to define the cutoff,
Yep.
and that is a whole can of worms in itself.
Yeah. That makes sense, and that's why that's why we're not coming to you with a specific recommendation. We just wanted to raise the possibility to kind of check in to see if you had any initial thoughts or concerns. And I agree, defining that point is could be challenging. So
Yeah, like John, you mentioned a cooler versus a storefront, right? That was the example you gave. So what's the cooler? What is that about? Is that the AC unit, like the compressor in the back or
oh,
something?
this would be like a refrigerated space, like a walk-in cooler for kegs, food storage, things like that. So like small expansions outside the building
Yeah.
that, or for example, like replacing some of the current glazing on the front. Just
See, I would, on the historic side, I'd be much more concerned about the front of the shop, the glazing, things that are architecturally significant or visible in that frame of reference.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So that would just loosely is what I would expect to come before the board, where we would, you know, gather feedback.
okay.
I'd rather not see it turn into a 1920s, 19 or 1820s building. It's a box. It's a gas station with a big cover for. I mean, it's. I say that we embrace what's there, and hopefully that they bring us a presentation of something
Yeah,
that represents. And I believe they will. They're not going to mess around in this town on something that's kind of half-assed.
I think it's an exciting opportunity for that period. Like, you know, there's been other conversations about different neighborhoods that were built at different times. I mean, we've had various developments throughout the city at different times.
You're right.
You know, and I think if you preserve the architecture, you know, Palm Springs, that has a whole different architectural, you know, buffet or whatever. So I think if we embrace that in the gas station, maybe there's some opportunity there too, you know, and then we're in the flow of things.
Okay.
Because they want to encourage investment.
I highly
But we also-
concur.
Right.
I mean, for like all, there's so many of these modern contemporary homes that were built in the late 70s. I mean, Robinwood is, I think half the neighbor of Robinwood is like that. And so, I mean, all that, you know, we're definitely, you know, it's kind of weird to think about historically preserving something that was built within our lifetimes, but you know, I mean, we're real close to that.
Yeah. It's equity. It's neighborhood equity. It really is.
Well, plus you think about HRB 2001, 2003, and you know, and I said something to Darren before about how people might actually start clamoring to have their houses registered with us just so they can't be touched. It's like this whole neighborhood, single family homes, you can't touch it, historically preserved. Yeah. so so yeah, that stuff's all coming up. I don't know. It might take 10 years, but you know, we got to keep our minds open to that and how things are going to change soon. So this is just a gateway project. That was my short point.
Yeah, I think appreciation for architecture, you know, appreciation for a sense of place, you know, it just goes a long way. And I think that's generally what our committee is really about. And then this discussion with the gas station is very similar, just in the sense that we're looking about identity, design, style, cohesion, which is a good problem to have, honestly.
Okay.
I look at it as equity for our city.
Okay.
It's fun. It's a story to tell.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. This has given me some thoughts here about potential things we could maybe talk about at our next session about chapters 25 and 58. So, okay.
Hey, John, are they
Yeah.
going to submit something to us? Because I see them working over there. They're starting to clean it up and stuff like that. Are they going to submit anything to us anytime soon, or are you aware of any kind of application that's going in?
So we understand they're doing so they are coming in for some initial improvements to the site to basically clean it up and install, as I understand it, sewer and water hookups to keep the area sanitary. We've determined that's allowed by right through building permits, and so that level of improvement is okay. Any sort of improvements to the structures in the canopy or the garage and sort of retail building will require an application. We've provided them the various standards that they're up against. So example, chapter 58, which requires the 1890 to 1915 sort of design standards, and they're taking a look at that as well as the approval for the youth music project, and they're trying to sort of formulate their own application and strategy. So just sort of on that. So we understand there's going to be a short-term and a long-term application. So so the city will likely see some level of activity in the near term without much improvements to the site. And then we will have an application coming in, which will likely come through the HRB on the way to the Planning Commission, but we'll see. So that's our expectation right now. But again, at this point, we're only at a pre-application level, so the applicant has shared their intentions, but we don't know. We haven't seen anything official yet. So if that makes sense.
No, I know. I appreciate that. It's just
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah. So, yeah. But yeah, I think you will do that. Okay. Well, I think if that's it, then I think I'll sort of leave it there and turn it back to the vice chair then. So
Awesome.
yeah.
Was there any further business to come before us this evening?
No, that's all. That was all on the agenda. So
Awesome. Anyone have any?
There's one thing.
Yeah, please.
I was gonna say there's one more thing on the agenda, number 7.
let's see.
Adjourn.
Thank you. I love a little comedy to lighten the mood, you know, it just really helps to get things done.
Yeah.
Well, honestly, it's always a joy to speak with everybody, and honestly, you know, Todd and John, like it's good to meet you guys, and I'm sure at some point we'll meet in person, and you know, I appreciate the job that we're all doing here, and everyone has precious time, so hopefully it's well spent when we meet.
Well, I appreciate the chance to meet you all, and thank you for the service to the community, listening to you tonight and typing notes over here on my other laptop as you go. It's evident that you are a very knowledgeable group and have a sincere concern for the city. I appreciate having